Have you ever wondered why popular characters like Jack Reacher or Mad Max and Fury Road, or real life people like Keanu Reeves, captivate people even though they don't follow the traditional forms of masculinity? They aren't loud, they aren't aggressive, they don't try and dominate a room. They just have a presence that people notice and feel and are drawn to. These are examples of what is traditionally called the strong silent type. And it's an archetype of masculinity that isn't talked about much anymore, but we see it in media all the time. And if you're an introverted man, it's an archetype that you can use as a blueprint to exert your own sense of masculinity in a healthy way that feels natural to you. Instead of trying to pretend to be something you're not, you can actually use this as a template to figure out a way of expressing your own masculinity in your own natural way. So, what is a strong silent type? Let's talk about it. First, let's define exactly what we're talking about. What is it? What do we mean by the strong silent type? Well, first we mean men that have a strong, grounded presence. They don't have to announce their entrance into a room. Everyone just feels it. Everyone knows when they're there and they know exactly where they are, and they don't have to say anything. They are calm and present and grounded. That grounded presence comes from depth. This is difficult to fake. These are men who think about things. They are more interested in ideas and events and concepts and deep, meaningful conversations than surface level small talk. That presence also comes from a grounded competence. They know what they are capable of because they have spent a lot of time developing their skills, honing their knowledge until they don't question whether or not they can accomplish the things they set their mind to. That level of competence is impossible to fake. And they move through the world with a sense of purpose. They know exactly what they're doing and why. They know what's important to them, and they know the things that they don't care about, the things that other people may think are important, but to them they don't matter, and they don't bother with them. They know exactly what they want out of life, and they are working hard to get it. These men don't need external validation, so they don't have to put on any performances for anybody else. They have a strong sense of self-worth, self-esteem, self-awareness, self-confidence. Key word being self. They are internally motivated and internally validated, so they don't have to depend on other people. And when you don't depend on other people, you're free. When you see these men in a crowd, in a party, in a gathering, very often you'll see them not sitting back and observing, thinking about what's being said, what's being talked about, but not saying much. But when they do speak, their words carry gravity. Men of the strong silent type are silent for a reason, because they don't waste words, they don't waste energy on things that aren't necessary. They don't talk just to fill the silence. They're very comfortable in silence. They only speak when they have something worthwhile to say. And the final characteristic of the strong silent type is they let their actions speak for themselves. I like to say, if you have to tell me, it's probably not true. If you have to tell me you're good at something, instead of me being able to just see you do it, you're probably not as good as you think you are. The strong silent type doesn't brag. They don't seek external validation. They just let their actions speak for themselves. If they're going to do something, they're going to do it. If they're good at something, you'll know it because you'll see it in their actions, you'll see it in their results. So those are the characteristics of the strong silent type. Now, why is this important? Because as introverted men, very often we're told that to be considered masculine, to be considered powerful and be respected by people around us, we have to exhibit traits that don't resonate with us, that don't feel right, that don't feel natural. We have to be dominant, we have to be aggressive, we have to be the center of attention. And that doesn't feel natural to us because it's not who we are. But if we look at popular culture and popular media, we actually very often see another form of masculinity that doesn't have to be aggressive, that doesn't have to be domineering, it doesn't have to always be the center of attention, it doesn't have to talk a lot. In fact, it's one of the most popular representations of healthy masculinity in popular culture. But we don't always necessarily understand that it is a version of introversion, because the stereotypical idea of introversion is the shy, the withdrawn type of man. When we see these types of characters in popular culture, we don't automatically think of them as introverts, because a lot of people misunderstand the term introvert. The term introvert is not shy, and a lot of people like to say that introverts recharge their social battery by being alone, and extroverts recharge their social battery by being in social situations. But again, that's an extroverted view of introversion. In fact, introvert means of the inner world. It means you spend a lot of time in your mind, you spend a lot of time thinking deeply about ideas and concepts and considering things very carefully. Whereas extroverts are about the outer world. They're much more focused on what's going on around them, about interacting with other people. So it really isn't about socializing. It's about how your mind works. So when you see these characters in media and they don't say a lot, you know there's a lot going on inside. That's a sign of introversion. But you don't see them as being shy or withdrawn. They just don't say much. But they walk through the world with a sense of confidence and authority and power because they have confidence in themselves. They are competent. They are sure of themselves. That's what healthy masculinity looks like on an introvert. Now, some of the characteristics we see in unhealthy men, both introverted and extroverted, is mistaking aggression for assertiveness. Assertiveness is simply, this is who I am, this is what I believe, and I'm not changing that. I'm not backing down. Very often that aggression, when we talk about men trying to prove their masculinity, it takes a form of fighting and posturing for dominance and bullying and domineering and throwing your weight around. This again is not true masculinity. And in the end, none of that is necessary. It's not necessary for any man. It's even less necessary for an introverted man. Because when we lean into our natural tendencies and our natural strengths, we develop more meaningful connections because we are able to connect with people on a much deeper level than most other people. And this is a true strength of being an introvert. So when we lean into those powers and that natural tendency, we develop deeper connections in both our work and personal lives. We find careers that fulfill us and we find our life full of purpose and meaning. So let's talk about the key traits of the strong silent type that you can cultivate in yourself. The first is emotional control. This is stoicism in its truest form. This is not fake stoicism. This is genuine stoicism that comes from truly understanding your own emotion so that you can control them and direct them in healthy ways. The next trait is competence. This is very simply developing strong skill sets. Whatever it is that you want to do, whatever skill set it is you want to develop, learn it well, learn it deeply, become good at it. Get that deep knowledge that comes from genuine experience, time spent thinking about what you're learning. This is one of the things that will set you apart from anybody else. Now, as you're developing this competence, you want to focus on self-sufficiency. The more you can do for yourself internally, the better. The more self-contained you can be, the better. Now, I'm not talking about isolating yourself, moving out into the woods and living alone. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you develop those competent skills and you know you have them, you know you don't need to depend on somebody else. So the people that you invite into your life are people you want in your life instead of someone you need to have there because they make you feel good about yourself. You already feel good about yourself, so you don't have to have them. That's the kind of self-sufficiency I'm talking about, so that you can feel good with those people because you know they're there because you want them there. The most important trait of all of this is purpose. Be purpose-driven. Purpose-driven means you know exactly what you're doing and why. You know the value behind what you're trying to achieve. So for example, you might have a life purpose. That would be great. But if you don't know what your life purpose is yet, that's okay. You have a purpose for everything you do. If you're behind the wheel of a car, you're trying to go somewhere. Where are you trying to go? Maybe it's to work. Why are you trying to go to work? So you can earn a living and pay your bills. Why do you need to pay your bills? So that your family can have a home to live in, food to eat. So you're serving someone else. That's your purpose. So when somebody cuts you off in traffic, you might get angry. You might want to do something about that, but that doesn't serve your purpose. When you're purpose-driven, you don't get distracted. You stay on goal and you stay focused on what you're trying to achieve and why it's important to you. That's what it means to be purpose-driven. And if you don't have a purpose for what you're doing, stop doing it. Figure out what your purpose is and go do that. And then finally, we have selective communication. A lot of people are uncomfortable in silence. There's a lot of times, I'm sure, when you might not actually want to talk, but you feel that kind of pressure to talk. Learn to get comfortable in that silence. In fact, it can be a power to be comfortable in that silence, because a lot of times if you just let the silence sit, other people will begin to open up and share things with you, and you'll learn things about them. You'll get those deeper conversations that you really crave. And at other times, sometimes when you choose not to speak and the other person sees that you don't need to fill the silence, they can relax because they no longer feel the pressure to fill the silence either. They no longer feel uncomfortable. So either of these are great outcomes, and these are one of the things that introverts can do to make other people comfortable around them. When you do speak, speak with purpose. When you do speak, what you say will have weight. It'll carry more weight if you don't waste your words. Think about what you're going to say and when you're going to say it. And if you don't have anything meaningful to say, then be comfortable not saying anything. You don't always have to fill the silence. All right, so now we know what the strong silent type is, we know what their characteristics are, and we know which things you want to begin to incorporate into your life if they feel appropriate to you. So how do we take this from theory into practice? One of the first things would be to train yourself to pause. If you're having a conversation with somebody, when they finish speaking, don't speak immediately. Take a breath. Let the pause happen. Be comfortable taking that breath and thinking so that when you do speak, they're going to be like, okay, what's he's got to say? This sounds important. It carries much more meaning than if you immediately speak right after they do. And develop quiet strength. Now, whether it's through a fitness routine, discipline at work, or learning a new skill that you really want to, devoting yourself to something with discipline and spending the time to learn it deeply and well and to become competent at it, that creates a quiet strength in yourself. When you can just sit back and focus on one thing and begin to do it and encompass it and make it part of who you are, that begins to develop this kind of quiet strength that you just carry around with you and people begin to feel. They don't even know why. They won't know some of the skill sets that you have. They'll just sense that this person is capable because you know you're capable. And lastly is find a sense of purpose. I've talked about this already. You may not know what your life purpose is. I do deeply believe that everyone has a life purpose, a reason why they're in the world and a way they can best serve humanity. You may not know yours. That's okay. But it's time to begin thinking about it. What are the things you like to do? What are the things you are interested in? What are the things you're passionate about? The things that you see as problems that need to be solved? What are the values that you hold deeply and are unquestionable to you? What are the beliefs you have of what's important in the world? When you begin to analyze these things, you begin to put together a picture of what it is that is really important to you, what's really meaningful. You combine that newer understanding of what's important to you with the things you're good at, the things you gravitate towards learning, and you begin to see a pattern where you can apply the things that you are good at and the things you are learning to the things that are important to you. That's how you begin to develop your purpose. And purpose, unlike passion, is always outside of yourself. It is a way that makes the world better so that you leave a legacy behind. Other people who come after us will have a better life because of what we did. That's when you know you have a true purpose, when you believe that your actions will have that kind of impact. So as you can see, the strong silent type isn't just a movie trope. It's a real framework that an introverted man can use to develop his own masculine presence and self-expression in the world. But you have to be careful. Do not try to imitate characters. Don't try and be just like Jack Reacher or Keanu Reeves. Find your own personal expression. The topics we talked about are sort of generalizations. You need to find your own way of expressing them and figuring out how that feels real and authentic to you. And it's going to be different for everybody. And also remember, people are not two-dimensional characters. There are going to be times when you want to talk a lot, when you get excited about a topic and you just have a lot to say. That's okay. Say that. Let that passion come out. Let those people around you feel and see that side of you too. You're not a two-dimensional character. Don't get caught up in trying to be just one archetype. Now, if you really want to dive into this and develop yourself into the man you were meant to be in a much shorter time with a really focused, dedicated effort, there's a link in the description below where you can book a one-on-one consultation to see if coaching with me is a right fit for you. Not every man is right for this. Only the most devoted and disciplined men who really want to make true change in their life are right for this kind of coaching because you have to do the work. But if you are willing to do the work, I can shorten that journey for you by helping you with proven techniques and strategies to help you uncover who you are and your best expression of yourself. So if that's something you want to do, click the link below and let's talk. And remember, you don't have to be the loudest man in the room. You just need to be the strongest version of yourself that you can be. The more you cultivate these traits, the more grounded and present you become, the more presence you will exude, and the more respect you will gain. And that is how you become the strong silent type.